Transformational recovery can be defined a whole lot of different ways. It's what happens beyond sobriety. It's what happens when enlightenment and the pursuit of enlightenment enters into a person's recovery. It's looking at life from the standpoint of not being an escapist any longer. I'm still in search of the right term. I don't like non-escapist, but the right term to describe somebody who's not committed to escapism. You see, our nervous system dictates that we would all be escapists. Here comes some pain. Here comes some emotional pain. Here comes some physical pain. We know what you're going to do next. You're going to do your best to prevent it. You're going to do your best to escape it once it arrives. And you're going to be committed to escaping it and escaping every other pain that you ever have your whole life, unless you see something that leads you to a different kind of mindset, a different set of motivations. Unless you see it. Because hardly anyone's talking about it. It's not like it's the instructions we receive in third grade about how to do life better. We don't get taught about it. We don't get to recognize it unless we're among the lucky. And there's a lot of you that are involved in recovery that are accomplishing some of this transformational recovery without realizing it. In other words, you've stopped being escapists and you never made a decision to stop being an escapist. You didn't talk to yourself in those kinds of terms. But you began to do things that ran contrary to the escapist commitment, like the pursuit of self-understanding at a very deep level, the recognition that fear and sadness and guilt and shame are not your enemy. A mature perspective on life that recognizes loss and self-esteem damage are part of playing the game. They go along with playing the game. They happen. So you've accomplished some transformational recovery without the specific guidance that I'm going to be giving people on how to do that. You've done it kind of accidentally or as a byproduct of doing something else that turned you on. You know, yoga, a spiritual discipline, giving back, a purpose. It occurred to you to throw yourself into that, and as a function of that, you've achieved a degree of transformational recovery, maybe without realizing it. And that's an important point I'll bring up later. A lot of people who bought into the early stage dogma of what addiction was still carry some of those ideas and they're handcuffed by them. They're a straitjacket. Once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. Addiction is a disease. If you're walking around with those things, you could be somebody who's achieved transformational recovery, and yet you have a lot of unnecessary doubt and uncertainty about yourself because of the dogma pieces that are residuals that are left over. They're the vestigial remnants of you're being dogmatized.